Okay, so this is Captain Sam G, and originally I wasn't going to make this video. I figured that a brief video from the Spider-Man PS4 trailer showing the only thing anyone's been talking about since the game was announced, the web slinging, and a semi-serious video showing destruction in the city would be enough. But surprisingly, people have actually kept on asking for me to make a video about my opinion on this trailer. So, here we go. First up is the stealth. Now, in my How to Make the Greatest Spider-Man Game video, I talked about shattered dimensions for the stealth, where as long as you're close to the bad guy, you could sweep them off their feet and take them out in a variety of ways. In the trailer, we've seen this and more, able to use stealth and webs to take out an enemy when you're right behind them or right above them, as well as environmental takedowns and special web tech that you can use to make the environment even more of a danger. I really hope there's still more options available though, like in Shattered Dimensions, such as standing above them on a platform or crawling on a wall and web pulling them up to you and knocking them out there, like in those noir sections. As for the combat, it looks great. You can really tell how strong and agile Spidey is as he flips around, knocks enemies 15 feet in the air and throws them around like rag dolls. But even better, inventive ways to use his unique spider abilities that set him apart from other strong and fast heroes. Either just webbing them up, or knocking them away just to pull them back with the webs, or wrapping ropes of webs around them to manipulate their bodies like a puppet. I'm expecting lots of finishes that end up sticking bad guys to the ceiling. But the one thing I really hope for is the ability to web a guy and start spinning him around your head to slam into other bad guys around you and then let him go to send him flying away. And I admit, I do kind of want some of the sillier mechanics of older Spider-Man games, like the web shield and web fists. Now before we get to the next fighting segment, I have to say, I really like the precision of the web yank, zipping yourself from one point to another with a very simple icon to show you where you're about to pull yourself to. It should make getting around stealth sections very easy, allowing you to properly survey an area and decide how you want to proceed. And once again, with the combat, there's environmental takedowns. And luckily, it seems that if there's a bad guy stood in front of the interactable object, they have big glowing red symbols above their heads, so it'll be pretty difficult to miss. And this is the first time you get to see Spider-Man saving a bad guy from a fall. Apparently, it's impossible to knock them off buildings and things like that. Spidey will always save them, which I think is a shame. Of course, Spidey is supposed to be a paragon of goodness, but damn it, if I want to throw henchmen off of skyscrapers or grab hold of them by their necks and then swing to the Empire State Building, go all the way to the top, and then jump off while aiming the bad guy's head at the ground, then by God, please just let me. I said it in my How to Make the Greatest Superman Game video, it's such a break in character and it might not make any sense, but don't restrict what I'm able to do, just let me have fun with it. And now, our first look at a big guy for you. And I wonder if there's any sort of difficulty settings in this game, or if there's none. Because while the normal henchmen seem to pose no challenge and can all be knocked out easily by Spidey, a guy who can throw cars around, so yeah, of course they wouldn't be a challenge. Without any difficulty settings, there's always the issue of the supervillains not posing too much of a challenge either, because hey, kids have to be able to beat this game as well after all. So I'm a little worried about that, because this big guy with infused powers didn't seem too imposing either. Now, I actually think this brief snippet tells us more about free roaming than the web slinging part does. He zips up 40 feet with a web line, launches himself further with his arms off the ledge, and immediately breaks into a very fast wall sprint. It's also seamless and effortless, and I really hope that speaks of more to come. Everyone talks about the web slinging in Spider-Man 2, but I think the real challenge of a good free-roaming Spider-Man game is being able to chain web slinging, web zipping, wall crawling, wall sprinting and jumping together, and giving you perfect control over those things. And here we have Mr. Negative. Great choice for a supervillain, not just because we fought Venom, Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin a bunch already, or that he has super strength and reflexes and can dodge bullets like Spider-Man, but because of his touch that can grant extra power to those he corrupts. So it's a great reason to explain away how his henchmen can occasionally land a hit on Spider-Man, or why some of the bigger guys have access to a bunch of energy attacks. And now we come to a load of destruction and a load of QuickTime events. I made a semi-serious video about the destruction and how it's pretty silly considering that this is supposed to be a Spider-Man that's already well established and has been doing this for years, as well as how much of a problem it's going to be for the authorities to deal with all this havoc and an enormous crane precariously hanging over the streets with an hour to solve the issue before the webbing dissolves. But as for the QTEs themselves, it may just be that it's the early stages of the game, but it looks like they're pretty forgiving and gives you quite a bit of time to press the right button. If they do get more difficult and it ends up being like at the end of Spider-Man 3, I might go insane. I also hope that each QTE has some funny failure associated with it and it doesn't just fade to black or something lame like that. I understand that a lot of people hate the very idea of QTEs, but it is a good way to showcase the full limits of such a leapy, twisty, flippy, webby character like Spider-Man, without it just being a flat-out cutscene. And here we go. What everyone's been waiting for. Web slinging. Now, from what we can see, web lines might actually connect to buildings. It might actually have momentum in mind, but really, until I get my hands on this game and I can hang in place by a web line and tilt the camera up to check, we won't fully know about webs actually connecting to buildings. And until I get my hands on this game and I can jump from a skyscraper, drop 100 feet and then cast out a web line, we won't know about momentum. And until I get my hands on this game and I can just feel what the web slinging is like, we won't know if it's just good, if it's fun. But the way Spidey changes movements together, wall running, launching off of objects, diving through gaps, that all looks great. I really like being able to enter buildings like this where a huge hole has just been blasted through, but outside of scripted events, I think it's maybe a little much to expect more of this sort of thing. I still hope there's destructibles in the city that Spidey can wreck, like punching down chimneys or walls, because, again, why the hell not? It's just something I enjoy. And now, back to enormous amounts of destruction, because despite being a long-time superhero, Spidey is still an idiot. The hero this city neither needs nor deserves, just causing mayhem wherever he goes. There won't be a city left by the time we've finished the game. It'll just be Spidey stood in the middle of a smoking crater saying, "I did it." And of course, Mr. Negative isn't done quite yet. I'll talk more about the potential implications of this in a moment. Because firstly, how can we not talk about this? Miles Morales in the game. Now, this may just be a little Easter egg, throwing in another character for people to say, huh, that's neat. But I'd quite like if this was handled either like Batman Arkham Knight or Grand Theft Auto 5. So either there are specific areas where you team up with Miles and can do duo takedowns on enemies and switch between the Spider-Men to clear out a room. Or like GTA 5, you can switch between the two during free roam and play through their individual missions while one is busy doing something else. Or the two come together to complete a singular mission, but each having to take a different route. I hope something like this is done, but hey, it could be nothing. Or he could be a hero in the game, but you have no control over him. I just really hope the two don't fight each other, because when it comes to heroes fighting heroes, no one is satisfied, due to very strong personal opinions. Superman could destroy Batman in a millisecond, by the way. Feel free to start getting angry and arguing about that in the comments to prove my point. And the reason why the two might fight goes back to Mr. Negative. He's able to corrupt people, so he could corrupt Peter Parker, and then you play as Miles and have to fight him. I really hope that doesn't happen. But a slow overtime corruption may also be the reason for Spidey's new costume change, and I hope that it is. If it's just a design choice, then no. I do not like all the white slapped onto Spidey and the giant white symbol on his back and chest. But if it serves a story purpose, then I'll forgive it. If not, I really hope you can do 4 things about it. 1, that there's alternate costumes you can put on. 2, one of the costumes is a normal standard Spidey costume. 3, that you can change into the standard Spidey costume as soon as the game begins. And 4, the most important one, costume changes actually affect what you look like in cutscenes. So, yeah, this is my little review of the latest trailer. I hope you liked my ramblings, and until next time, bye for now.